I woke up in room 347 of St. Mary's Hospital with tubes in my arms and a text message that destroyed my world. The message was from my wife, Lauren, sent at 2:47 p.m. while I was still in surgery. It read, "Talk to a lawyer. You're getting 30 days notice. I've already moved what I need. Don't try to contact me. My attorney will reach out." Attached was a photo of signed divorce papers on our kitchen table. The same kitchen table where we'd eaten breakfast together just 4 days earlier, before the accident that put me here. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 38 years old, and until last Tuesday, I thought I knew exactly who I was married to. I worked as an operations manager at a shipping logistics company in Memphis, Tennessee. Decent job, pulling in about $92,000 a year. Lauren was a dental hygienist at a practice in Germantown, making around $48,000. Together, we were comfortable. Not rich, but we owned a nice 3-bedroom house on Willow Creek Drive, drove reliable cars, took one good vacation a year. We'd been married for 9 years. No kids yet, though we talked about it. Lauren always said she wanted to wait until we had more saved up, until the timing was perfect. Looking back now, I realized the timing was never going to be perfect, because Lauren had been planning something else entirely. The accident happened on a Tuesday morning, October 17th, 2024. I was driving to work on I-40 when a semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel and slammed into 3 cars, including mine. My Honda Accord got crushed between the semi and a pickup truck. I don't remember much about the impact, just the sound of metal tearing, glass exploding, then nothing. I woke up 12 hours later in the ICU with a shattered left leg, 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and what the doctors called a moderate traumatic brain injury. The neurologist, Dr. Patricia Chun, told me I was lucky to be alive. "You're going to need extensive recovery time," she explained on that first night. "Multiple surgeries on your leg, physical therapy for months. You won't be able to work for at least 6 months, possibly longer." Lauren visited me that first night. She sat in the chair beside my hospital bed, holding my hand, crying. She told me she'd been terrified when she got the call, told me she loved me, told me everything would be okay. That was Monday night. By Tuesday afternoon, she'd apparently changed her mind about everything. When I read that text message on Tuesday at 4:15 p.m., I thought maybe the pain medication was making me hallucinate. I read it 3 times, looked at the photo of the divorce papers, checked the sender. It was definitely Lauren's number. My roommate in the hospital was an older guy named Frank, recovering from heart surgery. He noticed my expression. "Bad news?" he asked. "My wife just served me divorce papers," I said quietly, "by text message, while I'm in the hospital." Frank was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Some people show you who they really are when things get hard." I called Lauren immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I sent a text. "What is this? What's happening?" No response. I called our house phone. It rang and rang. No answer. That's when the panic started to set in. Not about the divorce itself, but about the phrase in her text. "I've already moved what I need." I opened my banking app on my phone, fingers shaking. Our joint checking account at First Tennessee Bank usually had about $8,400 in it. The balance showed $247.18. Our savings account, where we'd been building our emergency fund for 7 years, usually had $34,600. The balance showed $0. She cleaned out everything. I tried to sit up, but the pain in my ribs knocked me back down. Frank pressed the call button for the nurse. "Easy, son," he said. "Don't hurt yourself worse." A nurse named Sandra came in. "Mr. Webb, you need to stay calm. Your blood pressure just spiked." "My wife," I managed to say. "She emptied our bank accounts. I need to make some calls." Sandra looked at me with sympathy. "I'll give you some privacy, but please try to stay calm. You're still in critical recovery." After she left, I lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Lauren had waited until I was in surgery, unconscious and helpless, to file for divorce and steal our money. But here's what Lauren didn't know. 3 months earlier, in July, I discovered something that made me start preparing for exactly this moment. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. It started on a Saturday afternoon in July. Lauren said she was going to a dental conference in Nashville for the weekend. She'd mentioned it a few weeks earlier, said it was mandatory for continuing education credits. I was doing laundry that Saturday, sorting through the hamper, when I found a receipt in the pocket of her jeans. It was from a hotel called the Peabody in downtown Memphis, dated from the previous weekend. Room charge for one night, $287. But Lauren hadn't been to Memphis the previous weekend. She told me she was visiting her mother in Jackson, 2 hours away. I sat on the edge of our bed, holding that receipt, trying to find an innocent explanation. Maybe she'd had lunch at the hotel restaurant? Maybe a colleague had given her the receipt by accident? I told myself I was being paranoid. Lauren and I had our problems like any married couple, but I trusted her. We'd been together for 11 years, married for 9. She wouldn't cheat, but something in my gut told me to look deeper. I waited until Monday when Lauren was at work. Then I did something I'd never done before. I checked our cell phone account online. Lauren and I were on the same family plan through Verizon. I could see a log of all calls and texts, though not the actual content of the messages. What I found made my stomach turn. For the past 4 months, Lauren had been texting one number constantly, sometimes 30 or 40 texts per day, calls that lasted an hour or more, most of them happening during her work hours or late at night after I'd gone to bed. The number had a 901 area code, Memphis. I reverse-searched the number online, came back to a business listing, Trevor Hicks, DDS, a dentist with a practice in East Memphis. I felt sick. I knew exactly who Trevor Hicks was. He was the dentist who'd hired Lauren at her practice 3 years ago. She'd mentioned him before, said he was a good boss, fair, professional. She'd never mentioned that they were texting each other 50 times a day. I could have confronted her right then, could have demanded an explanation, started a fight, let my emotions take over. But I didn't. My father died when I was 16. Before he passed, he told me something I never forgot. When someone shows you their cards, don't flip the table. Play your hand better. So instead of confronting Lauren, I started playing my hand. First, I contacted an attorney. Not just any attorney, but Rebecca Walsh, a divorce lawyer who'd handled my colleague's case 2 years earlier. She was known for being thorough and aggressive. I met with Rebecca on a Wednesday afternoon in late July, telling Lauren I had a dentist appointment. "Tell me everything," Rebecca said in her office downtown. I showed her the hotel receipt, the phone records, everything I'd found. Rebecca listened carefully, taking notes. "Here's the reality, Marcus. Tennessee is a no-fault divorce state, so proving adultery doesn't change the division of assets much. But it does affect alimony and can influence a judge if things get contested. What do I need to do?" I asked. "Document everything. Keep records. Don't confront her yet. And most importantly, protect your assets." Over the next week, I followed Rebecca's instructions exactly. I opened a new checking account at a different bank, Regions Bank, under only my name. I started diverting my direct deposit there, keeping just enough in our joint account to avoid suspicion. I moved important documents to a safe deposit box at the bank. My birth certificate, our marriage license, the deed to our house, my grandfather's watch, my mother's jewelry. I gathered evidence. I took screenshots of the phone records every week. I checked our credit card statements and found charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels I'd never stayed at, expenses that didn't add up. On August 3rd, I hired a private investigator named Dale Morrison. He charged $125 per hour, but Rebecca said it would be worth it. "I need proof," I told Dale. "Photos, videos, whatever you can get." Took Dale less than a week. On August 9th, he sent me an encrypted file with 17 photos. Lauren and Trevor Hicks having lunch at a restaurant in Cordova. Lauren and Trevor entering a hotel together in downtown Memphis. Lauren and Trevor kissing in the parking lot of a Starbucks. The photos were clear, dated, time-stamped, undeniable. I sat in my car outside my office, looking at those photos, feeling something cold settle into my chest. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. This was who Lauren really was. This was what our marriage actually meant to her. On August 12th, I went back to Rebecca's office. "I have everything," I said, showing her the evidence. Rebecca reviewed it all carefully. "This is solid, Marcus. Very solid. Here's what I recommend. We file first. We control the narrative. We protect your assets. And we make sure she doesn't get to blindside you." "File now?" I asked. "Not yet," Rebecca said. "We need to be strategic. First, we need to secure your financial situation completely. Then we file. Timing matters." Over the next 6 weeks, I worked with Rebecca to prepare everything. We documented every shared asset. The house, the cars, the furniture, the bank accounts. We calculated exactly what I'd contributed versus what Lauren had contributed over 9 years of marriage. We prepared a filing that requested the house, citing that I'd paid 70% of the down payment with money from my parents' estate. We requested that she repay half of what she'd taken from our joint accounts. We documented her affair in detail. On September 23rd, everything was ready. "We can file whenever you want," Rebecca told me. "Once we do, she'll be served within 48 hours. Are you ready?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to file immediately, to end this charade of a marriage. But another part of me wanted to wait, to see what Lauren would do, to see if she'd ever come clean, ever show remorse, ever be honest. "Let me think about it," I told Rebecca. "I'll let you know." I went home that night and looked at Lauren across the dinner table. She was scrolling through her phone, smiling at something, probably a text from Trevor. "How was work?" I asked. "Fine," she said, not looking up. "Dr. Hicks said I might get a raise soon." The casual way she said his name, like he was just her boss and nothing more, told me everything I needed to know. That night, I made my decision. I would file the papers, but I wanted to wait for the perfect moment. A moment when it would have maximum impact. I never imagined that moment would come the way it did. On October 17th, 3 weeks after I'd decided to wait, I got in that accident on I-40. When I woke up in the ICU and saw Lauren crying beside my bed, I actually felt a flicker of hope. Maybe the accident would change things. Maybe facing the possibility of losing me would make her realize what she was throwing away. I was wrong. By the next afternoon, she'd sent that text message and cleaned out our accounts. But here's what Lauren didn't know. On September 30th, 1 week after my final meeting with Rebecca, I'd signed one more document. It was a limited power of attorney, giving Rebecca Walsh the authority to act on my behalf in legal matters if I became incapacitated. It was just a precaution. Rebecca had suggested it, saying you never know what might happen. "If you're ever unable to make decisions," she'd explained, "this lets me protect your interests. It's standard for clients in high-stakes situations." I'd signed it and forgotten about it. Until now. From my hospital bed, tubes in my arms, I called Rebecca's cell phone. It was after 5 p.m., but she answered on the second ring. "Marcus, I heard about your accident. Are you okay?" "I've been better," I said. "Lauren just served me divorce papers by text message, and she emptied our bank accounts." There was a pause. "While you're in the hospital, after a major accident." "While I was in surgery, actually. I was unconscious." "That's..." Rebecca's voice was tight with anger. "That's unconscionable." "Okay, here's what we're going to do. You signed that power of attorney, correct?" "Yes." "Good. I'm going to file your divorce papers first thing tomorrow morning. We already have everything prepared. Since you're incapacitated, I can file on your behalf under the POA. She thinks she beat you to it, but we're going to show her otherwise." "What about the money she took?" I asked. "How much?" "About $43,000 total. Everything in our joint accounts." Rebecca was quiet for a moment, thinking. Here's the good news. Under Tennessee law, dissipation of marital assets is taken very seriously. She cleaned out joint accounts after filing for divorce while you were hospitalized? A judge is going to crucify her for that. She'll have to return every penny, plus possibly pay penalties. What do I need to do? Nothing. You rest and recover. I'll handle everything. But Marcus, I need you to do one thing. Document everything. Every text she sends, every call, every interaction. Screenshot it all. I will. And Marcus? I'm sorry this is happening, but we're going to make this right. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. For 3 months, I'd been carrying the weight of Lauren's betrayal in secret. Now it was out in the open, and I wasn't facing it alone. Frank, my roommate, spoke up from across the room. Sounds like you got yourself a good lawyer. Yeah, I said. I do. You knew this was coming, didn't you? Frank asked. The divorce. I nodded. I've known for 3 months that she was cheating. I just didn't expect her to do it like this. Frank grunted. My wife left me when I had my first heart attack. 15 years ago. Didn't even wait until I got out of the hospital. Some people got no decency. What did you do? Same thing you're doing. Got a lawyer. Protected what was mine. Moved on. He paused. Best thing that ever happened to me, actually. Met my second wife 2 years later. Been happy ever since. I smiled despite everything. Thanks, Frank. That night I couldn't sleep. The pain medication made me drowsy, but my mind kept racing. I kept checking my phone, hoping Lauren would call, would text, would say something that explained this, that showed she still had some humanity left. Nothing. At 11:47 p.m., I sent her one message. I can't believe you did this while I was in surgery, after everything we've been through. She read it. I could see the read receipt, but she didn't respond. The next morning, Wednesday, October 18th, Rebecca called me at 8:30 a.m. It's done, she said. I filed your divorce petition this morning at 8 a.m. Lauren will be served at her workplace by noon today. What happens now? Now we wait for her response. But Marcus, there's something you should know. When I also filed an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets and to compel her to return the funds she took from your joint accounts. The judge granted it temporarily pending a hearing. What does that mean? It means any accounts in her name that contain marital funds are frozen as of this moment. She can't move money, can't make major purchases, can't hide assets. And she has to appear in court next week to explain why she took $43,000 from your joint accounts without your knowledge while you were incapacitated. I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of satisfaction wash over me. She's going to be furious. She should have thought of that before she cleaned out a hospital patient's bank accounts. The process server found Lauren at her dental office at 11:35 a.m. I know the exact time because Rebecca texted me. She's been served. Let the games begin. Lauren called me at 11:42 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 11:45. Again at 11:50. At noon, she sent a text. We need to talk. This is insane. Call me. I didn't respond. At 12:30, she sent another text. Marcus, I know you're upset, but this is crazy. You can't freeze my accounts. I need that money. Our money, I thought, but I still didn't respond. At 1:15 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Webb, this is Donald Price. I'm representing Lauren Webb in your divorce proceedings. Okay, I said. My client tells me you've frozen her bank accounts. That's highly unusual and frankly inappropriate given the circumstances. The circumstances being that she emptied our joint accounts while I was in surgery after a major accident? I kept my voice calm, factual. Price was quiet for a moment. Be that as it may, freezing accounts without notice is aggressive. So is stealing $43,000 from a hospitalized person. I guess we're both aggressive. You should probably talk to my attorney, Rebecca Walsh. I'm recovering from a traumatic brain injury and really shouldn't be having legal conversations right now. I hung up. Frank chuckled from his bed. You're handling this pretty well for a guy with a head injury. I've had 3 months to prepare, I said. She's had 3 days. Over the next week, while I was still in the hospital recovering, the legal battle began in earnest. Lauren's attorney filed a motion to unfreeze her accounts, arguing that she needed access to funds for living expenses. Rebecca countered with bank records showing Lauren had withdrawn $43,000 from joint accounts without authorization while I was incapacitated, which constituted financial abuse. The hearing was scheduled for October 25th, 1 week after Lauren served me. Dr. Chun initially said I wouldn't be released from the hospital until October 27th at the earliest. But I told Rebecca I wanted to be at that hearing. "You don't have to be there," Rebecca said during one of her visits to my hospital room. "I can handle it." "I want to be there," I said. "I want her to see me. I want her to have to sit in that courtroom and explain to a judge why she thought it was okay to rob me while I was unconscious." Rebecca smiled. "All right, I'll arrange for transport, but you're going to be in a wheelchair, and you need to follow all medical instructions." On the morning of October 25th, I was wheeled out of St. Mary's Hospital by a nurse named Carlos. My left leg was in a full cast from hip to ankle. My ribs were wrapped tight. I was on pain medication that made everything feel slightly unreal. But my mind was clear. Rebecca met me at the Shelby County Courthouse at 9 a.m. She'd arranged for Carlos to wheel me in through a side entrance to avoid stairs. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Like I got hit by a truck," I said. "Because I did. But I'm ready." The courtroom was small, just a few rows of benches. Lauren was already there with her attorney, Donald Price. She was wearing a navy blue dress, her hair pulled back. She looked tired. When she saw me being wheeled in, her face went pale. "Good," I thought. "You should be uncomfortable." The judge was a woman in her 60s named Sandra Martinez. She'd been on the family court bench for 20 years, according to Rebecca, and had a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. "We're here for the matter of Webb versus Webb," Judge Martinez said. "Emergency motion to freeze assets and compel return of funds. Mr. Price, your client removed approximately $43,000 from joint marital accounts. Is that correct?" Price stood. "Your Honor, my client did withdraw funds from joint accounts, but she had every right to do so. These were joint accounts, and she's an equal owner." "Mr. Price," Judge Martinez said, her voice sharp, "your client withdrew these funds while Mr. Webb was in surgery after a major traffic accident. Do you contest that fact?" "The timing was unfortunate, Your Honor." "But unfortunate?" Judge Martinez looked at Lauren. "Mrs. Webb, did you or did you not withdraw $43,000 from joint accounts on October 17th between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m.? Lauren stood slowly. "Yes, Your Honor, but..." "And were you aware that your husband was in surgery at St. Mary's Hospital at that exact time?" Lauren's voice was quiet. "Yes, Your Honor." "And did you inform him of your intention to withdraw these funds?" "No, Your Honor. But we were getting divorced and I..." "Mrs. Webb," Judge Martinez interrupted. "Had you filed divorce papers at that point?" "Yes, Your Honor. That afternoon." "So you filed for divorce and empty joint accounts while your husband was unconscious in surgery, without his knowledge or consent, correct?" Price tried to intervene. "Your Honor, if I may..." "No, Mr. Price, you may not. I want to hear from your client." Judge Martinez turned back to Lauren. "Mrs. Webb, answer the question." Lauren looked down. "Yes, Your Honor. That's what happened." The judge was silent for a moment, and I could see the anger in her expression. "Mrs. Webb, I've been presiding over family court for 2 decades. I've seen many difficult divorces, many situations where spouses act badly under stress. But what you did is among the most callous actions I've encountered in this courtroom." Lauren started crying. "Your Honor, I was scared. I didn't know if he'd survive, and I..." "So your response to your husband possibly dying was to steal his money?" Judge Martinez's voice was ice cold. "That's your explanation?" Price put his hand on Lauren's arm, trying to get her to stop talking. Rebecca stood. "Your Honor, if I may, the evidence shows a pattern of deception. Mrs. Webb has been engaged in an extramarital affair for at least 4 months. She waited until my client was at his most vulnerable to file for divorce and seize marital assets. This wasn't fear. This was calculation. Price objected. Your Honor, allegations of an affair are irrelevant to this motion. I'll decide what's relevant, Mr. Price. Judge Martinez looked at Rebecca. You have evidence of an affair? Rebecca handed a folder to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. Phone records, photographs, hotel receipts, all dated over the past 4 months. Judge Martinez reviewed the documents silently. Her expression grew darker with each page. Finally, she looked up. Mrs. Webb, these photos show you with a man identified as Trevor Hicks, your employer. Is that correct? Your Honor, Yes or no, Mrs. Webb? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Martinez closed the folder. Here's my ruling. The freeze on assets remains in place. Mrs. Webb, you will return $43,000 to a joint account within 30 days. This money will be held in escrow pending final division of assets. You will not make any further withdrawals from joint accounts without court approval or mutual written consent. Lauren's face crumpled. Your Honor, I don't have $43,000. I already spent some of it. The judge's eyebrows went up. You spent marital funds that you withdrew 8 days ago? I put a deposit on an apartment, and I paid my attorney's retainer. And how much have you spent? Lauren looked at Price, who whispered something to her. She turned back to the judge. About $18,000, Your Honor. Judge Martinez was silent for a long moment. Mrs. Webb, you withdrew $43,000 from your hospitalized husband 8 days ago, and you've already spent $18,000 of it? I needed somewhere to live, and you own a house jointly with your husband, correct? Yes, but I moved out. You moved out of the marital home that you co-own to rent an apartment using money you stole from your incapacitated husband? Judge Martinez looked disgusted. Mrs. Webb, you have 30 days to return the full $43,000. If you don't have it, I suggest you borrow it, because if you don't comply, I'll hold you in contempt. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. This hearing is adjourned. I'll see you both back here for the divorce proceedings. The gavel came down hard. As Carlos wheeled me out of the courtroom, I looked back once. Lauren was sitting with her head in her hands, crying. Price was packing up his briefcase, looking frustrated. I felt no sympathy, only cold satisfaction. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca walked beside my wheelchair. That went well, she said. She spent $18,000 in 8 days. I said, what did she spend it on? Rebecca checked her notes. According to the disclosure, Price had to file. $7,500 went to his retainer. $5,000 went to an apartment deposit and first month's rent. The rest appears to be shopping, restaurants, and a weekend trip to Nashville with someone. Trevor Hicks, I said. Probably. I shook my head. She destroyed our marriage for him, stole from me while I was dying in a hospital, and then spent the money on a romantic weekend. Rebecca put her hand on my shoulder. Marcus, she's going to lose badly in this divorce. The affair, the financial misconduct, the judge's clear disapproval, all of it works in your favor. We're going to make sure you get everything you're entitled to. Over the next 3 months, while I recovered from my injuries, the divorce moved forward. Lauren couldn't come up with the $43,000. She tried to borrow from her parents, but they refused. Her father called me once, asking if I'd be willing to be reasonable. She stole from me while I was in surgery. I told him, I am being reasonable. She's lucky I'm not pressing criminal charges. I wasn't bluffing. Rebecca had confirmed that what Lauren did could potentially be prosecuted as financial exploitation of an incapacitated person, which is a felony in Tennessee. But I didn't want Lauren in jail. I just wanted her out of my life and to keep what was mine. When Lauren couldn't produce the money, Judge Martinez issued a ruling that the $43,000 would be considered an advance on Lauren's share of marital assets, which meant when we divided everything, I'd get $43,000 more than her. The house was the biggest asset. We'd bought it in 2018 for $245,000. It was now worth about $310,000. We still owed $198,000 on the mortgage. Rebecca argued that I should get the house because I'd paid 70% of the down payment with inheritance money from my parents, and because Lauren had abandoned it to move in with her boyfriend. Price argued that Lauren should get half the equity regardless. The discovery phase revealed more of Lauren's deception. Phone records showed she'd been planning to leave me since at least June, 2 months before I found that hotel receipt. Text messages between her and Trevor, which Trevor's ex-wife provided after she found out about the affair, showed them discussing how to handle Marcus and how to make sure Lauren got what she deserved. One text from Lauren to Trevor, dated August 30th, made me physically sick. "He's so clueless. I could leave tomorrow and he wouldn't see it coming. But I need to wait until the timing is right. Make sure I get my share of everything first." Rebecca used that text to argue that Lauren had been planning to defraud me all along, that she'd strategically waited for a vulnerable moment to file. We also discovered that Lauren had opened a credit card in both our names without telling me. She'd racked up $12,000 in charges on it, mostly shopping and dinners with Trevor. Judge Martinez was not pleased. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for January 15, 2025. By that time, I was out of the hospital and doing physical therapy 3 times a week. My leg was healing slowly. The doctors said I'd walk again, but I'd probably always have a limp. My traumatic brain injury had left me with occasional headaches and some memory issues, but nothing permanent. I'd also gone back to work part-time in December. My company had been incredibly supportive, letting me work from home and adjust my hours as needed. Lauren, meanwhile, had lost her job. Dr. Trevor Hicks had fired her in November after his wife filed for divorce and named Lauren as the other woman. Apparently, having your dental hygienist sleep with you while your patients are in the waiting room is bad for business. Lauren was working at a different dental office now, making about $20 an hour, less than half her previous salary. On the morning of January 15th, I walked into Judge Martinez's courtroom without a wheelchair. I was using a cane and my limp was noticeable, but I walked in on my own. Lauren was already there. She looked different, thinner, older somehow. The confident woman who'd sent me divorce papers from my hospital bed was gone. In her place was someone who looked defeated. Judge Martinez reviewed all the evidence, all the arguments, all the financials. Then she delivered her ruling. This court finds that Mrs. Webb engaged in marital misconduct, including adultery and financial deception. The court finds that Mrs. Webb's actions in withdrawing marital funds, while Mr. Webb was incapacitated, were egregious and demonstrate a pattern of bad faith. Lauren's attorney tried to object, but Judge Martinez silenced him with a look. Therefore, the court awards the marital home to Mr. Webb. Mrs. Webb will receive no equity from the home, as the $43,000 she withdrew and failed to return is equivalent to her share of the equity. I felt a surge of victory. The house was mine. The court awards Mr. Webb's 401k and retirement accounts to Mr. Webb exclusively. Mrs. Webb's retirement accounts remain hers. Another win. My retirement was protected. The court orders Mrs. Webb to pay half of the marital debt, including the credit card debt she incurred without Mr. Webb's knowledge, totaling $6,000. Lauren made a small sound of protest, but said nothing. The court awards Mr. Webb $15,000 in attorney's fees, to be paid by Mrs. Webb over the next 24 months. Rebecca had asked for $25,000, but I'd take $15,000. Finally, Judge Martinez said, looking directly at Lauren, "I want to be clear about something, Mrs. Webb. Your actions in this case were reprehensible. You betrayed your husband, planned to defraud him, and then kicked him when he was at his lowest point. The only reason you're not facing criminal charges is because Mr. Webb chose not to pursue them. I suggest you take this as an opportunity to reflect on your choices and become a better person." The gavel came down at 2:47 p.m. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca shook my hand. "You got everything we asked for, Marcus. Everything." "Thank you," I said. "For everything. I couldn't have done this without you." "You did this," Rebecca said. "You prepared. You documented. You stayed calm. You played the long game. I just filed the paperwork." I smiled. "Still, thank you." Lauren walked out of the courthouse a few minutes later. She saw me standing there with Rebecca and stopped. For a moment, I thought she might say something. Apologize, maybe. Explain herself. But she just looked at me with empty eyes and walked away. I never spoke to Lauren again after that day. I heard through mutual friends that she and Trevor Hicks broke up 2 months after the divorce was finalized. Apparently, once the thrill of the affair wore off, they realized they had nothing in common. Lauren moved back in with her parents in Jackson. Last I heard, she was still working at a dental office, still paying off her share of our debts, still trying to rebuild her life. I sold the house in March 2025. Too many bad memories. I used the money to buy a smaller place in Midtown Memphis, a modern condo with no stairs. Better for my leg. I met someone new in April. Her name is Jessica. She's a physical therapist, actually. We met during one of my rehab sessions. She knows everything about what happened with Lauren, and she's been incredibly supportive. We're taking things slow, but it feels right in a way my relationship with Lauren never did. The accident that put me in the hospital was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It left me with permanent injuries, months of painful recovery, and medical bills that insurance didn't fully cover. But it also revealed who Lauren really was. And in a strange way, it saved me from wasting more years with someone who saw me as nothing more than a bank account and a backup plan. Lauren thought she was being clever, waiting until I was at my weakest to file for divorce and take everything. What she didn't know was that I'd already seen through her months earlier, that I'd already prepared for the worst, that I'd already filed the papers that would protect me. She thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. Turned out we were both playing chess. I was just 3 moves ahead. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.